Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John, and this is going to be my complete hammer collection I've got on my shelves. Now, I've also done, as you know, my Tigon ones and also Tigon ones, sorry. My Tigon ones and also my Amicus ones. I'll leave a link to them ones down below if you haven't seen them already. Also, I'm going to create a playlist for the hammer stuff. So I will go into some of these in more detail on them different videos that I probably did quite a while ago. So I'm not going to take too long over this because if I was to explain every single one like I did with the Tigon ones and also the Amicus ones, I think this video would be about 6 hours long. So let's crack on. So first up, you have this amazing box set from Umbrella. It is Hammer Horror Triple Shock Volume 1. Try saying that at 20 pints. You do get 3 movies in here. You get Paranoiac, Nightmare, and also The Curse of Frankenstein. 3 great Hammer horrors. So like I said before, these production companies didn't put out solely horror, but that's what they're more known for. And that's what they do best, in my opinion. So that's this Hammer Horror Triple Shock Volume 1. Next up, I have the indicator section. So first up is the Snorkel. Now, we'll see if I have seen these or not. And in that one, the only one I hadn't seen is Nightmare. Got to put that right. So I haven't seen this one, the Snorkel. I heard good things about it. Apparently, it's got a really good ending as well. It's a bit nastier than you would imagine. It's only a 12, and these ones can be picked up really cheap. It's great where you can. Some of these ones cost a fortune actually. Sometimes when you go across to America. Now, what I will say is, I was looking through the Hammer list, and there's 30 that I haven't got, and I've got quite a few as you'll see. But what I'm looking at, there's 12 that I would consider to be really good Hammer classics in those 30. The 30 is kind of the ones I would like to get because some of them are really aren't like pure horror films. But there's around about 12 which I would consider more like classic horror. But interested to see these ones. Haven't seen this one yet. That's the Snorkel. Same can be said for the Camp on Blood Island. I know it's a Hammer movie, but it's more like a pirate movie. Although you would think from this title you think this was a classic Hammer horror. So that's The Camp on Blood Island. Next up is Revenge of Frankenstein. The two best things about the Hammer Frankenstein movies is that they all start apart from one, Peter Cushing, amazing, and also the monster in it is a completely different monster in every one. So that's the Revenge of Frankenstein. I should be telling you dates on this, but it will be a minefield to try and remember all the dates of this. Next is The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll. Never seen this one before. This is an early one as well. And yeah, it's on the list. All these are on the list, obviously. What I will do with these ones, the ones I haven't seen, I will go back to them. I'm going through the Tiger ones at the minute, nearly finished those ones. I will go to the Amicus ones I've got, and then I will go to the Hammer ones. I'll do them last, and hopefully I'll get a few more of those ones, those classic ones I've been after in the meantime. So that's the Two Faces of Dracula. No, it's the Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll. Next is Never Take Sweets from a Stranger. This is such a foreboding title. I mean, it's not a Hammer horror, but I would imagine the whole thing behind this would be a real horror story. So yeah, I've heard great things about this movie. It's meant to be really kind of, it tells it like it is. And I mean, this came out in 1960, so yeah, wow, just a very intriguing title that. That's Never Take Sweets from a Stranger. Next up is The Damned. Never seen this before. I got a load of these when I was down in London recently, and they're probably only £5 each, which is brilliant. It's a great way to sort of stock up on your Hammer stuff. I mean, full price, these would have been quite a chunk of money, but at £5, you can't grumble that. I mean, even on DVD, you can't grumble with that. Films like this, you wouldn't consider to be classic Hammer horror. I mean, they're in black and white, and they haven't got that colour aspect, which is one of the best things about Hammer horror. But I'm really interested to see what these are like, these early Hammer movies. So that's The Damned. Next up is the Gorgon. Speaking of classics, this is a classic, a very early classic, 1964. And I have seen this one. It's brilliant. The colours in it look fantastic. I'm really glad that Indicator have been putting out some Hammer stuff. The more the merrier, that's what I say. I know these ones have probably come out in big box sets, but they go for crazy money. Great to see them getting split up and getting released individually. So that's the Gorgon. Great movie. Next up is The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. Now, this is 1964. If I wanted to put these in order, like the Mummy ones together, the Frankenstein ones together, the Dracula ones together, they wouldn't look that good in the shelves. These are how I've got them on here because I want them to sort of be very uniform. And if I did put them in order, they would be all over the place, or they would look all over the place to me. I want them to be quite uniform. This is why they look like this. This is why I put them all together, should I say. These ones are quite cheesy. There's just something about them I like. So that's the Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. Next up is one of my favourite early Hammer psychological movies. It is Die Die My Darling. This is an absolute classic. Can't get enough of this movie. I watched it with the Debs, and she said she said, I don't even really watch that. And I says, no, come on, you've got to see it. It's got Stephanie Powers in. We're big fans of Stephanie Powers from Heart to Heart. So it's got everything going for it. Of course, it's got Tallulah Bankhead, and this Tallulah Bankhead, her performance in here is outstanding. It's just such a great movie. 1965 it is, but highly, highly, highly recommended. It's one of the ones that you wouldn't really think of when you think of Hammer horror. But do take a look at this one because you'll be in for a treat. It's just, I can't tell you how good it is. That's Die Die My Darling, also called The Fanatic. And next up, a rare entry from Arrow is The Hound of the Baskervilles. When I saw this one, I just didn't know it was anything to do with Hammer. I mean, I've seen this way back. I haven't watched this since. I've got it actually, believe it or not. I will get it watched because the Debs wants to watch this one. She likes Sherlock Holmes. This isn't a horror movie. You know, you would think it was with a title like that. It's like a sleuth movie, a detective movie. But really interested to see it. I keep saying that, but I really am. So that's like a rare entry from Arrow. That's The Hound of the Baskervilles. Next on DVD, it hasn't been upgraded to Blu-ray as far as I know, is Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. Like I say, all these Frankenstein movies are absolutely brilliant. It's a shame that this one hasn't got released as far as I know on Blu-ray. But I can't wait to get. I would love a box set with all the Frankenstein ones, and that will probably never happen due to rights issues. Just the performance of Peter Cushing in these ones is just absolutely sensational because he doesn't play Dr. Frankenstein isn't like a dashing hero. He's a real piece of work. He's like a nasty, nasty bit of work. And I just like the depths he sings to in these movies gets worse as it goes along. There's some really good plot twists to get him out of the fact that he seems to get killed in every movie, but he doesn't. But there's ways of getting around that, and some of them as well, which is incredible. So that's Frankenstein. Don't know why I did that. So that's Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. Before getting to more Hammer horror, how's this? Nearest and Dearest, the movie. This was released by Hammer, and they're also released on the buses, which I've got, but I think it's downstairs on DVD. The three movies they were Hammer Productions. Now, it's just mad to think. I mean, I'm a big fan of the series, got the series down there. Watched it recently. Big fan of this movie, even though the movie is just kind of like one of the episodes drawn out, or two of the episodes put together, and then recreated as a 1972 movie. But yeah, it just shows you that Hammer, as well as all the other ones, did put out some strange stuff. If you were a completist, you would have to start collecting all this. So it's mad, isn't it? So that's Nearest and Dearest, the movie. Next up is a double feature of Revenge of Frankenstein and also Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. This is on one disc. This is Mill Creek, and the quality is quite low on this. But it's great to get this off John Hall to have it on Blu-ray. But obviously these have been sort of on indicator. They've got like a better quality print, so that's why I've upgraded them ones. But I'm still keeping this one because I just like to have this Hammer stuff. I did have a few on DVD which I kind of let go, which I'm not really that bothered about because the DVDs weren't that particularly spectacular because I didn't have that many extras on, but are exclusive extras, should I say. But I think that the Blu-rays have really superseded them. So yeah, great double bill that. Next up is The Curse of the Werewolf. I think it's 1961. Obviously, Oliver Reed is the best person ever to play a werewolf in my estimation. But that's the only one that ever did. Strangely enough, you would have thought, oh, they would have done like a big one because all the other ones, Frankenstein, the Mummy, Dracula, they all had massive amount of ones. But yeah, they've only got one, sadly. Next up is Captain Clegg, aka Night Creatures, which is a much better title. Captain Clegg just sounds a little bit, but it isn't. It isn't a horror film. It's more like a swashbuckling saga. So there's loads of people commented, which I knew would happen, on the book that I showed, that really like early 70s horror book that everybody collected from early 1970s. I got it from Alex. I'm going to have to get that video together, and it's going to be great what you see. And if you think that book's good, you should see the rest of the stuff I've got. Amazing. This is featured heavily in it. When you open the book, you see nothing but these sort of ghost. Well, it's the horses and they've got like skeleton outfits on them. I haven't seen this movie, believe it or not, but it was really iconic for me. So every time I think of this movie, I think of this book. So that's Captain Clegg. Although not the best of titles. So next up is the Phantom of the Opera. I think this has come out on Indicator. I think Indicator have a better print. I think the print on this is not meant to be that good. It's meant to be a bit lower quality because I think, unfortunately, Final Cut aren't the best at remastering their stuff. You know that the Studio Canal stuff is by far the best at the moment on Blu-ray. We've got to get a 4Ks coming out of this stuff, but I think this has been upgraded by Indicator, I believe. I could be a bit rusty on some of the details on this, so that's the Phantom of the Opera. Next up is a Kiss of the. I have seen that one, but a long time ago. Next is Kiss of the Vampire. Now, I haven't seen this one, and I had this on my list. Well, I got it, and I thought, right, one of the ones that I really wanted to see. And I know I've probably seen it back in the day. I just can't remember anything about it. But it's going to be great going into a great classic Hammer one when I think I can't remember it. Some of these ones, when I'm going to look into them, I can't remember that exact storylines of them. That's the best thing about them. When you watch them, it's like watching like a brand new movie because sometimes it's been that long since you've seen them. Early 70s, Kiss of the Vampire. Next is Quatermass in the Pit. Now remember this is 1967, good year. This is the third one in the Quatermass saga, I believe. I know they've had a TV series out as well. And I must admit the quality on this was when I first saw this on Blu-ray, I was stunned by the details in here when you saw the upgrade from the DVDs to the Blu-ray. Now, I know that probably the 4K, the Blu-ray to 4K won't be as good, but if they can do it right, I think they can get some stunning 4Ks out. Now, this one here, I've never seen anything like it with colours on a Blu-ray. So I think that this is a testament to how good the 4Ks are going to look. Please God, let them come out. So that's Quatermass in the Pit. Next is The Vampire Lovers, starring the amazing Ingrid Pitt. Now, I've shown this before, but I'll show it again. There is I'll keep it in here. There is an autograph, signed autograph to John. With love, I think it says, Ingrid Pitt. Now, that's John Hall got this for me. He's got two, and obviously John and John. So it's just amazing that I've got that. I want to thank John Hall once again. I kept it in here. I think I'll always stop in here because I don't want it like to get sun damaged. And these ones, these sort of is it Carmilla trilogy? Absolutely brilliant. So that's the Vampire Lovers. Ingrid Pitt. Speaking of Ingrid Pitt, next up is Countess Dracula. This is a reimagining of the Countess Bathory saga where she gets bathed in blood or drinks blood and she becomes younger. When she doesn't get her blood fix, she gets older again. Great movie, but Ingrid Pitt can do no wrong for me. That's Countess Dracula. Next up is Twins of Evil. Now I remember when these were on TV and used to see all these Hammer horror ones. Now sometimes used to get a little bit over the top, a bit more risque. And this is definitely one of them. This is an American one. You can't get this in the UK. I don't know what the quality is like, what the difference is. This looks spectacular. So I don't, it's Synapse as well. So I don't think I need to sort of upgrade this one at this minute, but you never know. Everyone knows what the real classics are. And this is by far one of them. So that's the Twins of Evil. Amazing premise to have real twins playing the Twins of Evil. Next up is Hands of the Ripper. Now, I have seen this one quite a while ago. I think I saw it with the Deads, but I just can't remember that much about it. I know there's a bit of a twist to it, and I think I know what the twist is because I have seen it before. But I think it needs a good rewatching. I might watch this in a double bill with the Hound of the Baskervilles, maybe. Because I love stuff about Jack the Ripper. I love all that kind of, the mystery, basically. So quite high up on the list, that's The Hands of the Ripper. Next is Vampire Circus. Speaking of ones that were getting risque, this was one of the ones when you put it on, when you saw it on the TV and you were watching it, you think, my God. Now, when I was watching it with my dad, he let us watch anything, but I went across to me grands and I was watching it, my granddad's. They would let me stay up and watch maybe a one or two of these. But when these were on, sometimes my granddad would stop up and he wasn't asleep and he'd watch them with us and he would say, when these type of things got on, I was hoping he'd get to sleep pretty quick on in the movie, but when he didn't, he'd say, right, get that off and get to bed. So that's the Vampire Circus. Now, is that the one I think that's the one that's got that nice slipcover for me. I was talking about Twins of Evil, but I think it has had a British release from Network, possibly. Why there's that many companies release these things? Sometimes you trip yourself up when you're trying to remember who did what. Next up is The Curse of Frankenstein. This is the original one. Now, the picture quality in here is really washed out. I know there's it's a new version come out, and I do need to get it because it's meant to look spectacular. When this came out, they said that's just the way it is. The print is just damaged, and you can't get anything better than that. And I thought, I knew that's the way it looked back in the day, and I thought, no, I've seen this looking really colourful and vibrant somewhere on the TV even. And obviously the new updated ones come out and sorted all those picture problems out. So that's the Curse of Frankenstein, the first ever Frankenstein movie. What a movie that is. Next up is the Evil of Frankenstein. I've got it in that box set, but I'm also keeping a hold of this. It's got some extras on here, which is probably different to the ones in that box set. And I think the one in the box set does look a bit better than this. But this one, even though it's final cut, it does look pretty good. And yeah, you get some really strange monsters in this series. So that's the Evil of Frankenstein. Next up is my favorite Frankenstein movie. It is Frankenstein Created Woman. This is from, I don't know who's Millennium. Got a nice slipcover on here. It's got some R cards in here. I would like to think that they would have done a load of these ones and kept them, nice on the shelves. Will look really good. Continuity, but only one that came out as far as I know. Bit of a shame, but I just love this movie. I've talked about it quite a few times, but you don't see any of that, by the way. He doesn't create this woman. It's about taking the soul out of a man and putting it into a woman and bringing that to life. When you see the slant on the Frankenstein saga, you could think that something like the League of Gentlemen would absolutely love this sort of way it went. So that's Frankenstein Created Woman. Hell of a movie. Next up is Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, 1974, the last ever Frankenstein movie from Hammer. I've got to thank my good friend Dennis McCulloch for sending this one over to me. There's his letter and also them brilliant pictures of Laurel and Hardy. Amazing. So I want to thank Dennis once again for sending this over to me, and it's great to have this one. It's got this pack of extras on this one. I've got a special edition of this. Yeah, so that's Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. Big shout out to Dennis. Next up is Dracula, the first ever Dracula. This one was great when it came out because it had extra footage in. I know the extra footage is stuff that I'm sure I've seen on the TV, but I couldn't have done. This is apparently found in a Japanese print, and the quality is quite low in it. I would love them to get this on 4K, obviously. This one looks a little bit washed out as well, unfortunately, but this is very iconic. I think the Dracula ones are more iconic than the Frankenstein ones, if I'm honest. So that's Dracula. Next up is Brides of Dracula. This is the second one, the second entry, and Christopher Lee says I'm not coming back for that one, and I had to get a different kind of vampire in that. But Peter Cushing did come back as a role of Van Helsing. But it's still a great movie. I still enjoy it, but it's a big shame that Christopher Lee didn't feel a need to come back for quite a few years. Next up is Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. Just kind of get enough of these. I think these have all been released in the UK. This is US one. I wouldn't like these to get updated on a new Blu-ray because I feel that they could do a 4K. And I would like this one updated, of course, to a 4K with all the bells and whistles, loads of extras. But I wouldn't like to do it to double dip on a Blu-ray of this and think there's a 4K coming out as well. So that's all highly recommended. These ones, of course, obviously, as Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. Next up is my favourite Dracula movie. It is Taste the Blood of Dracula, 1968, I believe. This has got every single thing you could want from a Hammer movie in every shape or form. It's a little bit adult in places. It's got a great storyline. It's got a lot of blood and guts. Got some great stars in here. Linda Hayden, who obviously starred in the amazing Tigon release, Blood on Satan's Claw. You get all these stars just going backwards and forwards in all of this. It must have been a treasure trove for these actors to think, right, I've got this amazing horror coming up. Who's doing it? I'm going to Hammer. I'm going to Tigon. I don't know if these people were, well, obviously they mustn't have been tied into a company because it could just flip backwards and forwards. Amazing. But this has just got everything. And this is my top title to see on 4K and get the most amazing special edition done of it. So that's Taste the Blood of Dracula. Next up is The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. This was the last Dracula film. Christopher Lee was long gone by this point. He said, I'm not coming back for any other ones. I think he was over with Jess Franco doing stuff over in Italy. And they got somebody else to play him. It's a poor imitation of Christopher Lee, obviously. But getting that one side, this is a great movie. It's a kung fu martial arts because that was obviously the rage after the really sad passing of Bruce Lee. Because kung fu was really the main thing at that point. So they jumped on the bandwagon. But I think they've made a great movie. Yes, the Dracula part, just forget about that. But the rest of it is sensational. For me, it's one of the best. And I really like even though the Kung Fu is quite, it's not that good. I think it's just an absolutely sensational movie for me. I'm so glad that it came out in the UK. This was only available on Blu-ray in the US. You just go for a lot of money. I think it's a better cut. It might have two cuts of it on the US one, but it's like daft money. But this one here, like recently you could get this for £5 in a sale from Signal One, the company. So it's amazing. So that's The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. So next up is Dracula, AD 1972. This is out on the HMV premium range, so you can get it for two for £15, which is good because next up is The Satanic Rites of Dracula at 72. This is 73. These kind of follow on from each other. But these are kind of like the same movies if they made them back to back in the same fashion. Really good, really like it. This one's much better than this one, I'd say. So the good thing about these Hammer horror ones is that sometimes it doesn't break the bank to collect them, thankfully. So these next ones are shown very recently, so I'll kind of gloss over these ones, but I will say a big thanks to my good friend Dave Ramsden for supplying me with the covers to these, which makes them look absolutely incredible on the shelves. So next up is The Plague of the Zombies. Great one. These are really ultra iconic. When these first come out from Studio Canal, I was like, this is brilliant. Studio Canal did say that they were going to release pretty much all of them. I mean, they've released quite a lot, but they didn't release all of them. Shame on you, Studio Canal, unless they're going to come back with some more, but I really don't think they will because it's been a lot of years since they've had the last ones out. Next is Rasputin the Mad Monk, Christopher Lee, iconic. Next up is the Reptile. I like the colour schemes on here, they're different, you know. They've got some great artwork. They're kind of like original, but not original, if that makes any sense. Next up is the first one that I ever got on Blu-ray from Hammer, Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Now, this one does have, because I got this straight away and I didn't get it replaced, it has got an audio sync issue. And it goes out of sync for about 2 minutes. It's not that much, it doesn't really bother us. But I'm just wondering if you were to rebuy it now. Sometimes I see it in HMV and I think if I was to just get that cheap, would it have the audio sync thing fixed? I don't know. Never heard too much about that because this is like 2012 when this came out. So it's a bit late for me to say, excuse me, I want a new one of this. So that's Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Next up is Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. I think it was 4 of these when they came out. Great colour. Next is Lust for a Vampire. This is one of the ones where they were getting a little bit, you know, in the 70s, 73, 74, they were a bit over the top, yeah, but highly watchable. But I used to have to watch these at my dad's house rather than having it at my grand's house because that would have been instant get to bed. Next is The Mummy's Shroud. Good cover that. Actually, good fun. Next up is 1 Million Years BC. Now, this was one of the last ones I needed for my slipcover collection to do with these. I've got them all, actually, the Studio Canal ones. And it's amazing when you go on HMV. Sometimes you go in there and they've got loads of these in with no slipcovers. Then you go in and they've got pretty much of them all with the slipcovers. And you think, wow, I can't believe that slipcover has come out. Because usually these ones just disappear, slipcovers, and you don't see them again. But sometimes they do come out, so they're not as hard to find as, you know, you might think. So that's 1 million years BC with Raquel Welch, who's sadly just recently left us. Next up is The Witches, one of my favourite hammers, which doesn't get really talked about. A lot of people don't like it at all, and they just think it's just someone or nothing, but I just really like it for whatever reason. This picture quality is absolutely sensational. One of the best ones on Blu-ray. And you think, wow, these were real eye-openers when you saw them from the DVDs. You would think the DVDs would look good. But when you saw them on here, you thought, there was such an upgrade, it was unreal. So that's The Witches. Next up is The Horror of Frankenstein. This is the one that didn't star Peter Cushing as Frankenstein. Although there's Darth Vader, Dave Prowse, the Green Cross Code Man, as the monster. And this is kind of like a comedy take on it, I think. So I remember it, but not that well. I just remember something about, I think he was just eating a pigeon or something, which was, the thought of it. Next up is Fear in the Night. This is a psychological thriller where Peter Cushing plays someone who just isn't that nice, which is strange for Peter Cushing. I know I was talking about in Frankenstein, he was playing a bit of piece of work as Frankenstein. But in this one, he's a really creepy character. Next up is Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, a great take on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde tale. Yeah, obviously he does, when he gets in his altered ego, he does change into a woman. So it's got some quite strange pieces in this one, shall I say, but really enjoyed this one. The picture quality is like I keep saying about these ones, especially Studio Canal. The picture quality is just so good. It's unreal. So highly recommended, of course. Next up is Demons of the Mind. Now, I got this well, a while ago. I haven't watched this yet. I do want to get it watched, but it's kind of low on the list because, well, like I say, all the ones I haven't watched, I will watch them again. I don't know how I'll talk about all these and rank them because the other ones, Tigon and Amicus, is only a small amount in there. This is going to be quite, I mean, this video here is nearly an hour now, and I'm nearly finished, by the way. So I don't know what the cut is going to be like, but it's definitely going to be quite long. But yeah, need to get around this, but haven't watched it yet. Demons of the Mind. Next up is To the Devil a Daughter. This is either the last Hammer horror or one of the last horrors that came about because this is when they were kind of nearly finished in the mid 70s. Next up is The Devil Rides Out. Now Hammer did go down this sort of devil route. I think a load of companies doing that in this period of the early 70s. And they made some great stuff. And I think this satanic thing was a big thing in the early 70s. Next up is Straight On Till Morning. Haven't seen this one. I don't even know what this one's about. I don't know whether people don't really say they don't really like this one, but yeah, I want to give it a watch and see what it is. Straight On Till Morning. Next up is The Scars of Dracula. Now, The Scars of Dracula, I do think, has a great performance from Christopher Lee as Dracula, but I think the supporting cast, not that I don't like them as actors, I just don't think they fit this movie for some reason. The best person in here is Michael Ripper, obviously. I think it was Michael Ripper's last appearance in a Hammer movie, I believe, because he was in more Hammer movies than anybody else, Michael Ripper. Wow. So that's Scars of Dracula. And lastly are the special editions of The Mummy and also Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. Now, excuse the baggy shrink wrap on here. These were absolutely spectacular special editions, and I thought, oh, this is it. We're going to see these ones in this form, these big box sets. Sadly, there's only been these two, and I know these two have been out before. And the problem with them is that they haven't been remastered. Second Sight put them out, but they haven't done their own remastering, which I think would improve these. I mean, they still look great, but they're basically the same discs from I think Final Cut released them. It's just their discs and they're really better production like packaging, which is a bit of a shame actually, but I'm not taking anything away from the fact that these are coming up like that. Unfortunately, there are only two that are like this at the minute. I would love to see them do more of this. So anyway, if you're still here, I think the next time I'll do one of these videos, it'll be what I've watched on the Tigon ones, and probably if I've got some more of their releases, I will also rank what I've thought of them and what I've thought of them this time around, because some I haven't seen for a long time. So anyway, I'm off for a drink. So thanks for watching. You take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.